Hello everyone. Good morning to you from here. And depending on what time zone you are tuning in from, good afternoon and good evening to you. Trust we all having a good week so far. For me, it has been quite interesting, and I do hope that it is the same for you as well. I know you will be wondering, yes, I decided to come on a little earlier today than expect. I will be heading over to my daughter's school for their open day, and you know that's one of those moments you just can't miss as a parent. And so before I leave, I wanted to connect with you guys and walk us through pin up to be a very important of the week. And in this session, I'm going to be taking you through what I'm looking at and what I'm planning and what I see in the market from both technical and fundamental perspective, and then using that information to strategically position ourselves for the next move. So at the moment, the market's in a very interesting position right now. The dollar's been strong all week. We've seen price find higher high. There has been some stall in that momentum, which we are going to be looking into. And of course, gold has been doing very well too as well. But at the moment, we've been seeing some drawdown in the last 24 hours. And we've got that whole important CPI data coming up later today that could easily shift the sentiment before the week finally closes. And you know, day of the week, it usually has the psychological expectation in the market where participants tend to start doing profit-taking activity after capitalizing on a strong move through the course of the week. So we are going to be taking all of this into consideration while we look into the market. So I'm very excited to welcome you on board. And for those of you who are joining me for the first time, my name is Sheriff Daramola. So today is really about awareness. Of course, we want to look at what is going on in that market and what market participants are doing at this point in time. Can you see my screen? Okay, yes, I think I'm on. Okay. So we are going to try to understand what's driving these moves rather than chasing them. You know how we do it. We are going to take a look at how the dollar's strength this week ties into broader risk sentiment. And of course, why gold has been sitting tight in the last 2 days, and what kind of setups make sense going into this data heavy Friday. So remember, this is the last trading day of the week. So whatever we do today should come from a place of clarity, not pressure. And of course, we've done pretty well through. If momentum, if the setup does not look promising, there is no pressure for us to out of nothing. Okay, so the first thing we are going to be doing right now, US dollar market dynamic. You know how we do it, of course. That's the first thing we do. Market dynamic. You know how we do it, of course. That's the first thing we normally do. We want to see what is going on there and how that could influence the way market participants will behave. Now, what you're seeing on my screen is the US dollar index. I hope we guys can see it. I think I'm on. Okay, yes, I'm on, right? So this is the DXY, and for those of us who are not familiar with the structure, well, this is the an instrument that gives us an insight into how well the US dollar is doing. And the structure you see on this 4 hours time frame was what we actually marked out on this chart prior to the beginning of the week. And we went on to emphasize that the market is bullish. And of course, as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we maintain a bullish bias. Somewhere around here, let me zoom in so we can see. So the week started somewhere around here, right? And we were able to capture the bullish bias around this area. on the GBPUSD, the USDJPY, and which one else again? Okay, the GBPUSD and the USDJPY. And of course, you can see price has been finding higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And since we saw that there is a stall in that momentum as price continued to consolidate, right? And of course, what's the reason behind? And of course, what's the reason behind the strength of the US dollar this week? Well, traders have been positioning for safety amidst fresh US sanction on Russia. And of course, the prolonged government shutdown ironically had a positive impact on the US dollar. And of course, the lingering geopolitical risk also gave the dollar some structures to build on a momentum. And going into today's trading session, we're looking at some high impactful. Okay, let's refresh this page. We need to look at the economic calendar together because it appears the dollar may be support from expectations that the upcoming CPI data would confirm inflation is staying sticky around the, what was that again? I think it's a 3.1%. I checked it this morning. Let's look at it again. I wonder time. Hold on a second. Hello, Jonah Aruna. Good morning to you. Happy to have you here this morning. Trust you have a good week so far. Okay. All right. So I think here we are. Still loading. So I think it's around. I think the market is expecting a 3.1% in inflation this month today. Giving the Feds less room to ease too aggressively. Okay, here we go. So today is Friday. Okay, here we go. Today is Friday, right? Okay, so we're looking forward to the CPI data by 12:30 p.m. UTC. That's 1:30 p.m. local time in this part of the world. And as you can see, the year over year market is expecting a 3.1%. Month over month, market is expecting a 0.4%. And you know the target for inflation is 2%, which is still looking very. See what the actual data is going to be like. If it comes in just as expected or a little bit higher than expected, we could see the dollar thrive and build on the current momentum it has captured, right? And then we also have the S&P Global Manufacturing PMI and the Services PMI as well. So these are data that gives us an insight into how the manufacturing sector and the service sector in the United States is doing, and it's going to be giving market participant overview of how the US economy is doing in the last 1 month. So we have the expectation of 52 and 53.5 respectively. So this is a PMI, Purchasing Managers Index, and it has a range of 0 to 100. So anything above 50 considers to be a positive one. That is, the sector actually expanded in the last 30 days. And if it is below 50, it shows that there is a contraction in that sector. So please, let's take note of this one. So these are the major events we're looking forward to today from the US economy. And as you will see, the jobless claim wasn't released, like I did tell you on Wednesday, due to the US government shutdown, right? So we really don't have an insight into what the labor sector is really doing at this point. So, but over 2 days now, price has gone into a consolidation, like I just said here, and I think this tells me that traders may have taken a pause at the moment to reassess ahead of today's inflation report, the final major data before next week Fed meeting. So I think the market is in a wait and see mode, and if CPI comes in softer, it could trigger profit taking activities, which could push price further down, while a hotter than expected reading will likely reignite demand and push price maybe to close the week very strong, maybe at the resistance line here. So as we all know now, based on what we can see here, it shows that market is waiting for this data before deciding whether they will be holding on to the US dollar or selling it off ahead of the weekend, right? So with this information we have gathered here, let's dive right into the chart and let's look at the asset we are monitoring for this week. So I'm not sure I don't know why okay, I think we are up. So we are looking at the USOIL spot, right? So this is what you see here is the 4 hours time frame. Hold on a second, I'm hearing a humming sound which might be affecting the delivery of the sound there. So I hope it's better now. Okay, so what we see here is a descending channel, right? We saw this descending channel at the beginning of the week. Emphasize that the market has been on a strong downtrend in the last 5 to 6 weeks, right? And at the beginning of the week, we were somewhere around the support line of that descending channel. And remember, we marked out this key level at the $57.25 area, and we said if price continues to trade below that structure, we'll look out for selling up, but if price breaks above it, we'll look out for buying ideas, right? And remember, we sold at the beginning of the week. I think then the second entry closed in a loss for me. Okay, so during the second half of the week, on Wednesday, I told you I missed out on this bullish move. I don't trade on Tuesdays, so I missed out on this one. Then on Wednesday, we were able to stay. So we had a range bound structure right here. Price was confined within the $58.33 level and the $58 area just right here. And then the market went into a choppy situation. Price broke out of structure, came back to retest, and look at what happened. This old length of move, I missed out on it due to this, because market was a little bit choppy on that 4 hours into the New York session. It was very choppy. Moved my stop losses, got taken out a couple of times, and I gave up in that market. But if you were able to capture this move all the way up, well done, kudos to you for staying faithful to our analytical approach. So as you can find higher highs, broke out of the resistant line of the descending channel to further buttress the strength of the buyers. Now, what has been going on in this market? Why is price just all of a sudden rising higher in the last 3-4 days? Well, this one was the bigger picture around the bullish sentiment here is the fresh US sanctions on one of the biggest Russian oil companies, and Lukoil. I don't know if I got that name correctly. And this, of course, raised fears of supply disruption, especially as China and India are pausing or cutting purchases of Russian crude oil to avoid sanctions from Europe and US. Now, the sanction has threatened nearly half of Russian exports at this point in time, which makes global market jittery about shortages. Meanwhile, OPEC has also hinted it could undo prior product for keeping a floor under the price at this moment. And due to this recent development, we can see that the last 24 hours price has been doing a little bit of consolidation around this area, and I was able to mark out a structure that gives me a clue into how the market is thinking at this point in time. So you can see we have a consolidation since yesterday morning, and within this consolidation are this descending trend line, and it's going to be playing a significant role for me today. And one thing I've also noticed here is that despite the fact that profit-taking activity wants to happen, that is, sellers are trying to push price down after this point, after testing the $62 area, you will see that there is a floor under this whole structure around the $61.09 level. As you will see, every attempt by sellers to break through has always been met with strong resistance from the buyers, making it a robust demand zone going into today's trading session. So for me, as long as price remains above the structure, I want to be looking out for patterns and structures that support buying ideas, right? So I'm looking to buy above this $61.40 level. If price can break above the structure, that will be a good opportunity to continue the uptrend move. But if if buyers find it difficult to break through and sellers come in and then break down, retest the $61.09 level, well, this will be a sweet spot to join a bearish move. So that is basically going to be looking at to help us navigate this market this week. So I hope I made myself very clear. If you have any question, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I'll take about 5-10 seconds off. Let's see if there are any questions before we move on to the next asset on our watch list. Stay. All right. So in the absence of none, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. Let's see how the market is going to play out from this particular point. I'm also considering maybe putting up a buy here. I'm not sure. Let's scale down into the 5 minutes time frame. I want to see what structure price has evolved into around the $61.25. So it's not really I can see sharp rejections of the $61.30 area just right here. So if I want to consider buying, maybe we buy above this area, above that area, after a retest of structure happens, something like this, breakout retest of the $61.30 level before capitalizing on the breakout of that structure of the resistance line I talked about here. So let's see what happens as we continue to monitor price from this particular point. So I wish us all the best of luck on the US crude oil. Good morning to you, Anolua John. Glad to have you here. All right, so moving on. So the next one we are looking at is the GBPUSD, and interesting enough, we have been holding the GBPUSD since the beginning of the week, and as you will see right at the bottom of your screen, I have two positions running which I took, and we're still in that market as price continues to find lower lows and lower highs through the course of the week. Now what you see here was the structure we marked out at the beginning of the week. We had a beautiful descending channel where market price closed last week exactly around the resistance line of that descending channel, and one of the things we agreed here on Monday was that we will consider buying only if the trend line gets broken to the upside, which never happened. With continued selling pressure below that trend line, it gave us a sweet signal that price is likely going to the downside, which we took advantage of, and since then we've seen price move over close to 100 pips in that regard. And one thing I've noticed here since Wednesday's trading session is how this area around the 1.33135 had become a support line. We can see the last 2-3 days price sellers have been finding it difficult to break down that structure, and this for me, I'm concerned because I should just secure my position right away, move my stop loss close, or we are likely going to see price breaking down that structure. Now if we take a look at the economic calendar, we saw some report today from the UK. We saw some good reports, I guess, and we had the retail sales data which came in higher than market expected. We had a 0.5% month on month, 1.5% year over year, and these figures here were way higher than what market participants were looking forward to. Then we also have the S&P Global manufacturing PMI and service PMI from the UK, which is coming up in about an hour from now, and I think this with the consumer price index and the S&P Global from the United States is what markets are looking forward to in any incisive decisions. So at this point in time, with this support around this area, I'm beginning to think that it is high time we moved our stop losses and secure this position. Now we've had from this area, I think we are within a psychological upon point, and with if we consider, yes, I think we had the CPI data on Wednesday. Yes, we had a CPI from the UK, which shows that inflation is tuning down a little bit, as you can see. And with that, and considering the strength of the US dollar ahead of the US CPI release today, I think it could have some extra pressure pushing price to the downside. So to help me navigate, before we navigate, actually, let us try to see how we can secure some profits from this position we are in since the beginning of the week. So this is the 15 minutes time frame here, and I think it is high time we move stop loss to somewhere right above this resistance line. So I'm looking at around the 1.3365 area. So I will just move my stop losses right away. We've held this for too long now. Monday, Tuesday, we have days we've been holding this sell position. So I think it's appropriate we just move stop losses right now. Today is the last trading day of the week. There could be some volatility following the upcoming major event from both economies. So I have moved my stop losses, sell positions I have on the GBP USD. Now let's go into the structure that we marked out on Wednesday. As you can see, this was what we marked out on Wednesday. We had a beautiful descending trend line, and interesting enough, price has been respecting that descending trend line since the beginning of the week. And you know how we use our descending trend lines. as long as continue to look out for selling ideas. We look out for patterns and structures that support selling. So let's zoom into what has been going on here in the last 18 hours or so. If we zoom in right below that descending trend line, you can see that price remained confined within a range, that is the 1.3 and the 1.3310 area, to emphasize the prevailing uncertainty going into the USCPI, the S&P Global from both economies, and of course the retail sales data from the United Kingdom. And if the UK retail sales comes in weaker, it could fuel fears of slower economic momentum, and that could further put pressure on the pound sterling. So for those of us who are yet to be part of this trade and are looking forward to capturing some opportunity today, during today's session, we have a simple structure to guide our decision. So with a range bound, which tells us that price is market as negotiating, we have no other choice at this juncture to wait patiently for either price breaking out the structure to give us an opportunity to buy, or breaking down the support line to give us an opportunity to sell. Now for me, if I'm going to be buying the GBPUSD, considering that we have been on a strong downtrend in the last 1 week, I would like to see confirmation before jumping into a buy. So if I'm going to be buying, I'm going to wait for price to come back, retest the structure, give me some bullish signal like continued buy pressure where sellers are finding it difficult to come back below the descending trend line. Then I will join that uptrend move. But if price 0.3310 area, that would be a good opportunity to join the downtrend continuation. And of course, you want to have a wide range of stop loss, about 20 pips stop loss to give enough breathing space for price action to move around. So this is what I'm looking at. Simple setup, range bound structure below the descending trend line, and let's see where price is going to go. Are we going to see a breakout of the resistance line to buy, or the breakdown of the support line to sell? So time will tell on that one. So let's see how events is going to unfold in the next couple of hours. So that is my view on the GBPUSD. If you have questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I'll take another 5-10 seconds before we move on to the next asset on our watch list. Okay, so I see you, Anolua John. You are asking what time frame are we analyzing on USD? Yes, it's the 15 minutes time frame right now. This is our execution time frame for today. So this is the 15 minutes time frame. I hope that's clear, right? All right, so in the absence of no further questions, we move on to the next assets on our watch list. I hope we are clear, Anolua John. All right, so moving on to the next one, I wish us all the best. So the next asset we are looking at now is the USDJPY, and of course I'm fulfilled on the USDJPY right now. I eat TP time buying this asset since the beginning of the week, and look at what happened. This was a structure we were looking at the beginning of the week, right? We had a beautiful ascending trend line which captured the character of price action since mid-September to emphasize the strength of the buyers in this market. And we had our key level just right around the 150.00 area, and it's from this point that we began to look out for buying ideas. You know how we use it, right? We want to look out for buying ideas if price remains above the trend line, or look out for selling opportunities if price drops below the trend line. And of course, at no point in time did we see price break down that consolidation we marked out during the first 10 to 11 hours of the week. We were able to capture a simple structure that guided our trading opportunity. So we were able to capture this whole move, had the TP around that resistant line, and look at what happened. Price moved over 200 pips in that regard. And for those of us who capitalized on that opportunity, well done and kudos to you. Now, going into today's trading session beginning to happen here, though the USDJPY has been pushing higher, but one thing we need to take note of is the fact that price is now at a crucial juncture, that is the resistant line at the 153.275. The last time price was here was last week Thursday. Price dropped from that level into the trend line. Now the question now is, will price action do the same around this area, or are we going to be seeing price break out of that particular structure? And if we look at the data from Japan, do we have it here? Hold on a second. I need to include Japan's economic calendar into this view. So let's see. And while this thing is loading, from my own personal experience, I think that the yen might be as higher oil prices hot oil importers like Japan, right? And Japan's inflation data, the last time I checked, was around 2.9%, which shows that inflation is still sticking out there, but not accelerating like that. So the Bank of Japan is unlikely to aggressively tighten their monetary policy. So I don't think the Bank of Japan will be considering cutting interest rates at this point in time, which leaves room for the US dollar strength to dominate at this point. So finally, markets will be looking ahead of the US CPI. I don't know why my My calendar is not loading up right now. So I think it's 2.9% CPI from Japan. Okay, so finally did. Okay, so this is the CPI data here. Yeah, I'm correct, 2.9%. It was 2.9%. So it shows that inflation is still sticky in Japan. So I don't think the Bank of Japan will be considering hiking interest rate at this point. So chances are that the US dollar may continue to rise from this point. But before then, the CPI that finally may come out first before market now finally put some aggressive bets on that asset. Now, to help me understand what is going on here and how market participants are digesting the information, I have a simple structure on the 15 minutes time frame which I'm going to be using to navigate the market today. Now, this is the time frame, and this is what I was able to come up with on the 15 minutes time frame. An ascending channel is right here. Look at this. If we connect the series of higher lows since yesterday, this is the support line of the ascending channel, right? And if we connect the series of higher highs, we have the resistance line of the ascending channel. So the chances of an uptrend is still very there. Okay, so price has just broken down the structure, and we may likely see price come into the 152.650 area, where continued buy pressure here may incite the next leg of bullish momentum. So I would like to acknowledge that particular point. Let's go to as far back as yesterday afternoon, and I think I will mark, I hope that's not too far off. So we're here, okay, and what is that level given on 152.650? So let's mark out the structure. 152.650 level, right? And look at how, let me show you something here. So we had a structure here. The last time price came into the support line of the ascending channel is right here. And look at buy pressure, something like a reversal setup, where the 152.650 has become the neckline of that reversal setup. And we usually expect that price will come back to retest the structure, which instantly lines up with the support line of the ascending channel to trigger the next leg of bullish momentum. Okay, so at this point I would like to see price come back into the structure, and as soon as it comes in here, I would wait patiently for about an hour or so to see how the market reacts here. So if I continue to see buy pressure here, that is, sellers are finding it difficult to break down, then we want to be looking to buy from this particular level. But if price goes ahead to break down the 152.650 and we see a retest of that structure, it will definitely incite a bearish. Let's exercise patience here, and let's see how the market will play around the structure to see if we are going bullish or bearish. I'm already profitable on the USDJPY. I'll just exercise patience here, and if I miss out on any of the opportunity, I will just pass that trade. I'm not any pressure at all to take a trade on this asset. So patience is very, very important. Now I initially marked out the 152.900 prior to the beginning of this session with the hopes that I could join a buy from there, but with the way things are going now, I would rather want to wait for price coming into the 152.650 area. It might not get there, but what I want to look out for is this kind of structure where sellers are finding it, and then I will join that uptrend continuation. I do hope I make myself a lot more clear here on the USDJPY. So that is what I'm looking at here. So if you have any question, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I will take about 5-10 seconds off, and you can also use that time to mark out the structures on your chart as well. All right, on the same page, right? So, in that regard, let's move right into the final assets on our watch list. Stay tuned in. So the final one we are looking at right now is my favorite amongst them, and that is the XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. And what you see on my screen is the structure we marked out at the beginning of the week, where in the last 2 to 3 months, we've seen how the price of gold had continued to rise, and this is more evident with that ascending trend line we spotted here, where we saw a deviation from that major one here mid-September, leading into this secondary trend line we have here. And though we bought the XAUUSD at the beginning of the week, remember we bought this one here, we captured about 1,000 pips of price movement before this whole massive move happened. I missed out on that one anyways. But on Wednesday, during our live session, we were able to see that as soon as price tested this trend line, we saw a sharp rejection, giving us signs that price may likely be respecting the trend line again to continue that uptrend move. And of course, we had some buy positions there, though we had some small profit along the way. But right now, it appears that the gold is taking a hit as US dollar rebounds, making gold relatively more expensive for non-USD holders to buy. Also, with this season in India, India being a big gold consumer, we have the Diwali season. Fiscal demand could cool down, putting more downside pressure on these assets. However, the US government shutdown and trade tensions still leave room for safe haven demand, and the expectation that the US come down, which of course lowers the opportunity cost of holding the gold, is one of the key pivot points that could support gold from falling to the downside. And if we look at things from a technical standpoint, the fact that price still remains above that trend line still gives us a sense of confidence that we could still see buy pressure here, and that the selling pressure we are seeing here could be more or less like a short-term move. Now, in order to guide my decisions today, we have a simple setup on the 15 minutes time frame, I think, and let me share that with you. And this will I sold this morning. Actually, I sold this morning. I took some profit. If you started the session with me, you will see that gold was doing very well before it closed. I moved my stop losses, secured some profit, and we saw price grow. So this was a structure I marked out this morning while I was trying to understand how market participants were digesting the fundamentals, right? So the first thing I noticed here was a descending trend line, right? Price has been respecting the trend line, and then below that descending trend line is this range that we have here, okay? And of course, when you see something like this, you want to see price break out to buy or break down to sell, and the breakdown of course triggered an engulfing bearish candle, as you will see here. Now I down happened, I moved my stop loss, then I got taken out at this point, and right now we are in a situation where it appears price want to retrace, maybe back into structure to continue the downtrend, or back into the trend line to continue the downtrend. So for me at this point, I still think that the downtrend is still looking viable, right? And then if price can go to break down this 40,083.50 level, let's mark that one out, 4,000 4,084.50 level, we could see a downtrend continuation from there. So in a short term, I think price is dropping due to the recent rebound in the US dollar. And like I told you earlier, market are suspecting or are predicting that consumer price index in the US will increase or will remain at 3.1%. So which is a very good news for the XAUUSD. So at this point, let me place a sell here. I can have a sell here. So I'll place a sell with a minimum lot size, and let's see how far that will play out. Okay, so price is back into that support now. They are not allowing me to take that trade. Okay, hold on. So if you want to be part of that move, you can take that trade there. And okay, I just did. And hopefully, let me go to the 5 minutes time frame. Let me go to the 5 minutes time frame. Okay, so and at the same time, this area could also be a support line. We never can tell. It could also be a support line. So we need some form of clarity around this area. But if we take a look at the fundamental factor, the path from a long-term perspective, the momentum is bullish. Right? And when we looked at the higher time frame, we still saw that price remains above the ascending trend line. So with the way things are, I will place a buy. So I usually do this sometimes. I'll place a buy and then have my stop loss at the lowest point here, and let's see which one is going to be taken out and which one will scale through. Now it's not going through. So I guess sellers are taking over gradually. So market must, I think that the major key, like I used to say, major key players in the market usually have insiders in these departments that want to release this economic news. And with these insiders, they usually get information on what the figure is going to be like. And because of that, they position themselves in a direction that will line up with whatever the event, the data will be. And this, most of the time when this happens, you see the price evolve into a particular structure that tells us in clear terms where price is likely going to go. So with the way things are going here, I'm beginning to think that CPI may come in a little bit higher than expected if the department release it, if the shutdown does not affect the department, because it appears the dollar is rising and the gold is dropping significantly here. And if we consider the Diwali season in India, it could really impact the price of gold, because it will be more or less like a public holiday there in India, and India is one of the major consumer of the gold commodity. So let's see how the market will play out from here. We are at a crucial juncture, and depending on what happens here will give us an insight into where price will be closing this week. But trust me, I will be updating us accordingly on my Telegram platform as I continue to monitor price action from here. Hope I made myself very. If you have any question, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I'll take another 5-10 seconds off. Let's see if there are any questions before we go ahead and round off on today's Forex Morning Mastery. So it appears we have a breakdown of that structure now, and I'm currently running with about 70 pips in profit. So I think it's high time we move stop losses, secure position. I will just move it to break even. I'm not in a hurry to take anything from here, so I'll just move it to break even, and let's see how far this is going to go. And let's see how far it's going to go actually. So I guess in the absence of no questions, we have come to the end of today's Forex Morning Mastery. So that's it for today. So so it isn't just to catch moves, but to understand how ourselves within the moves. We should understand what is going on in the market. We should understand how our emotions are playing out as we see price action move. And if you haven't already, check out my Rebuilding the Trader Within series. The link is right there in the description box below. That's where we go deeper into the side of trading, the emotional, mental, the part most people actually ignore. So please check it out. Listen to it. It's a reflective video, and if you have anything to share, please put in the comment section and we can relate together under the comment section of that video. Check out the link in the description box below. So it's on this note, we have come to today's Forex Morning Mastery. We were able to take on the 4 financial instruments on our watch list for this week: the US crude oil, the GBPUSD, the USDJPY, and of course the gold commodity. And we've done fairly well this week. Well done to everyone who has been part of this journey with me this week. And of course, always remember that every decision we make in the financial market is more or less an educated guess until price action hits your TP target. So with this understanding in mind, ensure that you have a well-defined risk management strategy in place. And for those of you who are joining me for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain 1 or 2 things from this session. If you did, subscribe to the channel and be part of our subsequent editions. The more time you spend with us, the better you get to comprehend my analytical approach. So I wish us all the best of luck. I will be dropping my plans for next week during the weekend. And then the Forex market prep will be coming up on Sunday. I will be sharing with you the timing of that one. So I wish us all the best of luck. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Trade smart, trade consciously, and do have a wonderful evening. Bye.